Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have David Tobias on the line, and he's Chief Product Officer over at Nearmap. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam. Appreciate it.
All right, Dave. So I'm located in LA, and I know that you're over in the Bay Area, so you're up north a bit here in California. And our topic today is a big one. So why better property data is the missing link between AI hype and smarter insurance decisions. So definitely want to get into that. But before we do, I'm just curious about you. What led you on this path to a Chief Product Officer? Were you in tech prior, or how'd you get to Nearmap?
Well, before we get that, I have to give you a hard time about your Dodgers because I'm a Giants fan. But, we'll put that one aside.
Okay.
Talk about the bigger picture items here. Yeah, my journey into insurance is kind of an interesting one. My father owned an insurance inspection company. So boots on the ground, going out to look at properties for insurance companies. So I literally grew up around.
Was this when you were growing up? Like you were young when you had this business?
Yep.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before I was born. So I, traveled all over the state, all over California with him, going to look at buildings and do this. So literally grew up around that. And I was always big into technology, learned how to code. I actually built the first software for that business, went off to college, came back, and I had the opportunity to either start my own thing or take that family business and kind of roll with it, and decided to actually do that. Grew that business quite a bit, ultimately sold it. But in that business, I found insurers needed more and better property data. And I was looking for different ways to help solve that problem. Started a company called BetterView, originally using drones to collect better property data, and ultimately pivoted that startup, and that startup was funded by Nationwide Insurance, Guidewire Software, a lot of big players in the insurance space, and pivoted that business to use aerial imagery, which is what Nearmap does today, and run AI on that aerial imagery to get better property data. And Nearmap ultimately acquired that business a few years ago. So now running a product for all of Nearmap. Nearmap, we're an aerial imagery property intelligence company that serves insurance companies, government, so federal, state, local, and AEC firms, so architecture, engineering, construction firms, in addition to the insurers and the government agencies.
I want to circle back to Nearmap in a moment, but I got to stay in that childhood or being young just a little bit longer because this is fascinating to me. What was it like around the dinner table or something, like, I don't know, Thanksgiving, holidays? Were you guys talking about insurance? Because I come from a small business background too, and we were like, you can't escape it. Were you talking about that? Like, what was that like?
Always, right? And I think you look back at some of the technology that was used back then and some of the things that my dad was struggling with at the time. This is when, you would take pictures, then you would mail those pictures in to the office, and the office would put these reports together, mail them to the insurance company.
Yeah.
To go faster, you would use Polaroid, pictures, right?
Yeah.
So
the kids listening are like, "What are these guys talking about here?" And relax.
Exactly.
ChatGPT it, okay? No.
Yeah. So the technology advancements, right, to get this type of information have changed quite dramatically. And so, look, as a family business, as you said, it's kind of everything, right? When you're in it.
Yeah, for sure. And then when you went to make that, when you had that decision of like whether or not to take over the family business or to be involved and really integrated in that, that's a tricky one. And a lot right now just happens to be like the age and that transition of wealth from one generation to another. Baby boomers are, they're up there in age, and more businesses going to start transitioning. What kind of went into your thought process, like to be like, I want to do this?
Well, I think part of it was you have to either own or run a small business, right? You've got to be naive enough in certain ways. But I think, that's what I grew up around, right? I started a business making websites for people when I was in college, and sort of that.
So the entrepreneur side was kind of outside of even insurance; it was in your blood. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that was really the only thing I had seen, right? So because my dad owned the business from before when I was born, and he had other businesses prior to that, right? So I think when you only know that path, it's less scary, right? And so growing up around it, to me was an advantage. And I think the way my dad had put it to me was, hey, there's a business that's running, it has customers, it has credit. So you can go start your own thing, or you can take this thing that started and has those elements already and run with it, or go do your own thing. And so that's kind of how it was presented to me, and decided to go forward with the entity that had the customers and had it was an ongoing concern already, right?
Absolutely. No, fascinating. I love it. I hope that helps some others that are in that situation right now. So I think it will. So let's switch it up a bit here. I do want to go further into Nearmap. So I know you gave us a little taste of what it does. But go further into the company. Please tell us more.
Yeah, so Nearmap's a really interesting company. We started in Australia, and our headquarters is still there. Was public in Australia. We were taken private by a PE firm called Thoma Bravo, big here in the U.S., one of the biggest software PE firms in the world. And the key there originally started with just aerial imaging, aerial mapping. So if you go on Google Maps and you really zoom into your home, it says satellite. Most of that's actually aerial imagery. So manned aerial images, meaning smaller propeller planes flying with giant cameras in the bottom of them, right? And that's what we do. We make the camera systems. So we design them, we manufacture them, and we put them on planes, and we tell those planes where to go. We cut holes in the bottom of perfectly good airplanes to put cameras in them, and then fly them all across the U.S., Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And we do this at given cadences, so multiple times a year, and we have the highest resolution imagery, but also the most frequency out there. And when you think about things like property intelligence, specifically around insurance, the condition of property changes rapidly. And in certain parts of the country, right, Florida, Texas, areas that are prone to high wind or hail events, wind events, it really matters to have that level of recency and resolution to take in that. Now, about 10 years ago, also saw what was happening around artificial intelligence and started running what we call computer vision AI models on the imagery. So what that does is it helps look at what's the shape and material of your roof. Do you have a pool in your backyard? What is the condition of your roof? Things like that. So there's about 130 AI detections we run on every image that we capture, and that's used across all the verticals that we serve. Because otherwise, you'd have to have humans look at all this imagery to try to understand what's going on. The AI can do that. And so we've been doing that for many years. So lots to talk about in the AI front, but Nearmap is not trying to be an AI company. You know,
let's take that a step further too, like in terms of what Nearmap's doing. So when it comes to the helping insurers from maybe some of the outdated assumptions, what do you do with that data? Like, how does it inform underwriting, claims decisions? Take it a step further for me, please.
Yeah, so like the key to insurance, right, is to not have a high price or a low price for the homeowner or the business owner, right? It's to have the right price for the risk. And that's the balance that insurers are always trying to make, right? They don't want to charge too much because then you'll go to a different company. They don't want to charge too little because they need to make sure it's balanced to the risk, right? So this type of data really helps them price effectively. It helps them work with insurers to make sure that the condition is maintained appropriately. And then really importantly, post-disaster, using all this data to determine where the Palisades fire is a great example. We flew those fires over 22 times during the course of the fires, and insurers were using the data and the AI we provide to pay claims sight unseen. So if we said that the home had burned down, and this is within hours. We started flying 4 hours.
I was just going to say, when we talk about like speed or when we talk about like efficiency, like, I mean, how do you beat that, right?
Yeah, so post-disaster, it's all about speed, right? You have horrible thing happening to these homeowners, right? They don't know if their home has made it or not made it, let alone...
Oh, that's true. They don't even know if they were somewhere else or,
Yeah, so quick aside, during the Palisades fire, I happened to be with one of our customers, which is one of the biggest insurers in the country, and I was sitting in their claims operations center during the fires. Our imagery, our AI is up on the screen there, and they were using it to track down the homeowners to say, Mr. Smith, your home made it, or no, it didn't, right?
That must have been surreal to be in that, like, to be watching that, right? Like, that must have been.
Yeah, I think it's an important reminder that we talk a lot about AI, we talk a lot about data, but there's humans
People.
buy insurance, right? And so all this is in service of how do we help the folks on the other end of all this data, right? How do we help the homeowners, the business owners? So this ability to, one, provide people certainty, this type of property intelligence data helps give them certainty in times of chaos like this. Did your home make it? Did it not? But also, if the home burned down, this insurer was immediately paying the max policy, so if you had a $3 million policy or $5 million, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
your home's gone. They immediately cut a check for the max amount and sent it off to people that day, that minute, because the sooner you had money, right, then maybe you could go get an apartment, you could figure out the next steps, get your kids into a different school. That speed really matters when you're on the other end of that and you've just lost your home. So really powerful to see these things up close and personal. But that's just a quick snapshot. We have insurers using it to price risk effectively, monitor that risk. And
how did that not make, they were cutting checks that fast? Did you see any, and maybe it just got, I do this all day, every day, so maybe it got past me, but did you see any stories like that hit nationally about about insurance cutting checks the same day? That's a shame.
I think
that would have been, and I see why, but that's a story that I feel like should have made it through. I had no idea. That's amazing. That is that's a way of, that's aid, right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I just don't remember one hitting on my hitting my desk on that. Go ahead, please.
No, you made a good call out there. We talk about this a lot. We always hear about the bad stories, right? Where there was something went wrong or somebody thought they didn't get paid what they should get paid. But the majority of the stories are actually positive ones and we never hear about those. And I think the industry needs to do a better job. And I consider us part of that industry, right?
Totally.
Telling those stories, because I think they're really powerful. And it's a great example of, the insurers doing what their mandate is, which is to make people whole again, but also using technology in ways to help people faster. I think it's important stories, and I totally agree with you. They're not getting told. We need to do a better job of telling those stories.
Yeah, I have to say, because I just don't remember anything breaking out there on that type of story. But okay, moving on. I'm just racking my brain here. Moving on though. So if we're looking at, kind of tying all this together now, and we talk about AI, we bring that into the conversation, which is we've been talking about the whole time. But there's always this concept of is the data right? Is it not right? How is the property data? How is that a differentiator in this whole discussion?
I think when you in this AI, whether it be property data or any kind of AI related data that we're all talking, you can't go an hour without seeing an AI headline or news story, right, at this point. So I think it's really important when we talk about accuracy to understand what we're comparing it against. So oftentimes I hear people, again, it could be property data, it could be any data. It doesn't necessarily have to be the type of data we're talking about here today, but they compare it against absolute truth, right? Meaning 100% accuracy, 100% precision, 100% recall. The reality is all the systems that we live in, again, whether it be insurance, whether it be mortgage underwriting, pick anything. The humans that are operating those processes today, they're not 100% accurate. I think we probably agree on that, right, Adam? They make mistakes. They don't remember all the guidelines and all these kinds of things. So I think the key to start the conversation around accuracy with anything in relation to AI is to compare it against the current process, not 100% accuracy. So let's say the current human process is 90% accuracy. I'm just making it up here.
Sure.
Compare it against that and then see how the AI performs against that, right? Comparing it against this theoretical 100% accuracy, that's great. It's good to know, but I think it misses the point of, can we be more efficient? The way I put it on some of this data too is I think about an insurance underwriter. An insurance underwriter has these guidelines. They're essentially rules, instructions. They can be hundreds of pages long. And I don't know about you, Adam. I can't remember hundreds of pages. I don't think these humans.
I remember to have for breakfast today. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. I don't think these humans can remember hundreds of pages, even the best ones that are out there, right? But the LLMs, these tools, they can, right, remember hundreds of pages. So in certain ways, again, we have to be cautious what we compare about. Now, I've seen on many of these elements, the computer, the AI, when I think about property intelligence, is outperforming the humans, right? Because it can be consistent, right? You can train it on millions or hundreds of millions of samples where the human brain can't comprehend all that, right? So for certain tasks, you see that the computer outperforming. Where you need to be cautious or careful is when you're asking the computer to make high impact decisions. I'll give you an example of that. Let's say you're in disaster preparedness for federal government or a city or a county or wherever. a state and you're trying to decide where to position food and water after a disaster. Well, the computer can help whittle down the areas, right? It can look at a bunch more data than the humans can. It can find that needle in the haystack that the human really struggles with. But the human should ultimately make that call, because the human might have other insight, right? Like, hey, I could put that this food and water station here, but that's also in a flood area. And if it floods, and maybe the computer didn't have access to that information, that's a real threat, right? So when you have human risk like that, I think you really need to make sure that the decisions get checked before they go out. And I think that's how most people have been thinking about it, right? Use the computer to help dwindle the decisions that have to be made, and then let the humans ultimately come in and make the final call on some of these. But that's for high-risk decisions, right? There's many low-risk decisions where I think we're showing and people have seen AI can make a decision very quickly and very accurately, right? And so you do have to be thoughtful around the risk of the decision that you're letting it make. And, it's obviously part of the debate we're all, seeing kind of out in the world right now.
That's great. David, this has been a lot of fun having you on and getting to know more about what you're doing at Nearmap, and also the lineage of entrepreneurs and dad getting into the business. All good stuff, man. I love it. This has been great, Dave. How do people follow up? How do they follow your journey, learn more, learn about Nearmap?
Well, yeah, look, I'd love for folks to go check out nearmap.com if they want to learn a little bit more around, property intelligence and how this data might be able to help them in their businesses. Happy to talk to anybody in the space personally, or entrepreneurs that I might be able to help. Find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place. Just Dave Tobias is my LinkedIn profile, and would be happy to talk to anybody out there around it. But, really appreciate the opportunity to kind of tell a little bit of my story and the story of Nearmap here today.
Absolutely. And for the audience, just so you know, we'll definitely put some links in the show notes so you can click on the links and go connect. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or follow button. This is a daily show. You heard me correct. Each and every day we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way on your journey as well. So hit that subscribe or follow button. And Dave, thanks again so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.